Tank, how are we, sir? How was the weekend?
It was good, mate. Really sunny. Football back. Unbelievable games. Forest win. Um, comments of chaos. And we're going to delve right into it today.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Don't get me wrong. This hour that we spend is one of my favorite hours of the week. But this one in particular feels like it's a shame. First of all, that Jimmy can't be with us because I'd say we definitely have some crack with him. But there's so much that happened in the weekend's worth of football. We also get the added benefit that Liverpool don't play tonight, so they couldn't ruin it for us.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, special shout out to Jimmy, who has been keeping us updated with the antics of his holiday. And he won't mind me sharing that at some points they were at an all-inclusive holiday resort, very family friendly. And he was sending us live pictures of two very giddy mums who got a bit carried away and were doing like a striptease, I think, on the stage.
Are you allowed to call them mums, Jamie, or are we allowed to say mums, or
primary caregivers?
There you go.
It was funny because that's definitely something we're going to get into. Exactly. As in, what are we allowed to call people these days? I was listening to Graham Souness this morning, and it literally had got to the point where he was like, the foreign lads that come across to the Premier League, and then he went, "Hold on. Am I allowed to say foreign?" You can see that the poor fella is just everyone's on bloody on tenterhooks trying to avoid being cast aside for some of the things that you say. It's a mad world out there, mate, isn't it?
The world's composite. I mean, honestly, you're terrified. What are you allowed to say now? I mean, we're going to talk about.
Let's be honest, mate. You're not particularly censored at this point, are you?
No, them rules don't apply to me. Because I just see myself as a common sense person. I don't care if you're a man, woman, whatever you are. It just doesn't affect me. But if I like something, I'll watch something. If I don't like something, I'll say that's shit. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Like, we've had this conversation about the women's, and they done great in the summer. It was brilliant for the women's game, and I hope it goes on from strength to strength. I found it poor quality, and I didn't watch any of it. That doesn't mean that I don't like women. I just don't like. I don't like that project. But I spoke about it with the UFC when Amanda Nunes fought Penny, and I was like, this was probably one of the greatest fights I've ever seen in my life. Two women having the right hair, but we're not allowed to say two women have. Anyway, I'm going on one.
Yeah, hold that thought. Hold that thought, because we will definitely come back to it. And we've got loads of questions that have come in from listeners. So that will definitely all be intertwined into some of those. But I want to kick off before we dive into the football, and I'm mad keen to get into the football. It was the 30th anniversary of the Premier League. Over the weekend, and what a weekend to celebrate it with all the action that went on. But from obviously a player's perspective, a fan's perspective, have there been any particular highlights for you in terms of Premier League memories?
I mean, it's that many, and I mean, it has been an absolute, it has been the greatest invention to football. The way it's just been, they took it from, like, we all loved football, but this is now it's theatre for me now. It's like, who'd have thought back in the day you'd have sat for an hour and a half and watched people talk shite about football but in the studio, but it's like you're gripped by, and it's just become a complete entertainment package.
And people like us talk shite about it for 45 minutes.
Exactly, but that's what I mean. It gives you something to talk about. I mean, some of our podcasts today will be talking about what's being said in studios after games and that, and it's it's brilliant. So there's been that many, mate. I mean, I always remember the one where Teddy Sheringham cut in, and it was against Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when he cut in and he smashed it in the top corner. One of my favourite moments, and it always has been, was I always forget his first name, was Philip Albert, the dink against Man United. Absolutely loved it.
I can even picture his celebration. It's mad how these things are like intertwined in your brain.
Yeah, there's been that many. I mean, you've got your own stuff, but the Philip Albert, it's always stuck with me. Like, just the way, and you think, what's he going to do? And then he's just dinked it. And the fact that he dinks someone as good as Schmeichel, he was one of the greatest that's ever played in goal. That's always been one of my favourite moments.
It was a great goal. And Schmeichel nearly made the theatre even better, because if I remember right, he didn't even put his arms. It was kind of like he was defeated, all ends up, and you knew that he'd be fuming.
Oh, yeah. The anger, that's what made it, because Schmeichel was an angry cat. And you knew that inside he was like, I'm going to fuck you in the tunnel.
Yeah. There's no greater insult as well than chipping a goalie. I actually remember, I don't know if I told you this. It was when I went, so I'd gone to Blackburn, and it was my first training session with them. And, you want to do well, but you don't want to be a prick. You don't want to get on the wrong side of the lads. But anyway, the session had been going well, and I was a little bit giddy, and we finished with some shooting practice. And I didn't know that it was a rule that if you try and dink the keeper and fail, he's allowed to pick up the ball and basically volley it over into the housing estate. So anyway, I dinked it and I nearly got him, to be honest. But he got the ball, give me the biggest death stare you have ever seen. And he volleyed the ball over about 3 fields into housing estates. Yeah. And the rule is you've got to go and get the ball. So, no, that was a good one. I would say some of mine would be, it has to be the Liverpool-Newcastle games, those 4-3s. Like particularly the first one. I think I remember I was away on a football tour, actually. I think I would have been about 10 or 11. I must have been around then. And it was just iconic commentary. Liverpool were a bit manic the way that Newcastle played with Asprilla up front and Ginola. It was end to end. And then I always had a bit of a soft spot for Collymore. I think we've said this on past podcasts at that age. And you remember the iconic commentary. Liverpool were rushing. It looked like there wasn't a pass on. And then all of a sudden, I think it was John Barnes rolled it out. And it's Collymore closing in. And he smashes it in. Just absolutely iconic. And then, trying to think of some of the other ones. You've got. I love the tunnel bust up. And we're going to come on to bust ups later on. The Keane bust up with Vieira, you know what I mean? They'd had a pop at Gary Neville, and he's like, "Let's see what you say out there," and just like it just gets the hairs standing up. You know, it's proper theatre. And then a random one, which only the Liverpool fans will probably appreciate. Liverpool beat Arsenal. I think it was 4-0 a few years ago under Brendan Rodgers when they were just a bit mad, and they had Suarez up front with Sterling and Sturridge, and Liverpool bashed Arsenal in the first 15-20 minutes with some of the most ridiculous football. We scored 3 or 4 goals within that opening sort of 20-25 minutes. It was when Suarez nearly scored the greatest goal that never was, the volley that hit the post from the edge of the box. And I just remember, I actually was laughing when the goals went in because the standard of football and the excitement that day was, that will definitely live long in the memory. There's just too many to pick from, though, really.
The Aguero moment's a big one as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's another one, that's another big moment of the Premier League history. I mean,
how can you settle a Premier League title like that? The last kick of the game, two rivals within the same city, but you just couldn't write it. And again, as much as I don't like Martin Tyler, iconic commentary.
Commentary,
massive moment. So this weekend's football. We're going to start with a club very close to your own heart, which is Nottingham Forest. I have to say, you must be buzzing. The atmosphere in the stadium, that looked absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, mate, it is. And I knew it was going to come like that because it's been a long time coming, and you've seen like this, the stand, and it's got risen, like the back. And, I've been watching videos this morning of it. The mist rolling in from the Trent, honestly, and you get your hair stand up. It's like, look, it's a proper club. It is. It's a massive club, Nottingham Forest, and it's been away from the Premier League for far too long. And you know what I love more than it? The result was great. I thought Forest were absolutely outstanding the first half. I did. I thought they were unbelievable. I knew they were going to tie because it was hot out there, and you was just like, can they keep up this intensity? And they rolled the luck at times, but. Do you know what's making me even more happy? And it's like, I'm really enjoying it on Twitter is the amount of signings that they're making, and the other rival fans are like really angry over this. And I'm like, it's brilliant. And I keep poking them saying, I've just done my bike for an hour there and Forest haven't signed anyone. I'm pissed off here. But look, they're coming in, they're making a splash, and it's going to be a difficult place to go. Honestly, do you know when all of these players gel and the click? The City Ground's going to be a difficult place for anybody to go and turn Forest over.
It's funny. I always love clubs with history, but I can't say just being honest, I can't say I had any particular affiliation with Nottingham Forest. I mean, why would I? Like you, obviously, you've played with them and loved the club. Whereas because of our friendship, I realised very quickly yesterday, I was like, hold on. I was cheering when the goal went in. I was like, hold on, what's happened? It's kind of like I'm building a bit of a second team love for Forest. And I have to say, look, outside of looking in, it kind of felt like that was the City's chance to stand up and and make a statement. The fans before the start of the game, it's like, we're back. And I think it was the skipper had said at the end of the game, look, if we're to be successful in this league, we're going to need the fans, and we're going to have to give them reasons to cheer. And I thought, like you, first off, I thought they were excellent. I mean, West Ham had chances, but you know, that's going to happen. One thing I have to say, and I want to come back to the signing thing in a second. Richard Keys. So first knob of the day, if you want. Richard Keys' comments. I put them up on our Twitter account post-game. He came out with such negative, unnecessary comments, something to the tune of, well, you know, Forest basically got away with one here. It's not going, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, you know, Forest got away with one here. It's not going to be that easy on another day. It could have been 4-1. So basically enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? Has something gone on between Forest and him for him to be like needlessly negative like that?
I just think he's like an insignificant man now, and he has to do these like controversial comments just to try and be out there. I mean, I used to like him. I used to think him and Andy Gray were great together. But like some of the comments what you see from now, he's just like he's like bitter and
he's out of touch.
Yeah, you kind of like, if we're going to go down that road where, you know, enjoy this while you can, Forest, well,
what's the point of football? Like that's what we live for.
Let's go to the team who we support. Last week at Fulham, we were bordering on disgraceful. We should have got beat. So does that mean that, like, okay, Liverpool, the title's over, you might as well wrap the season up now because you were that bad against Fulham, that it's finished. Enjoy this draw while you can. It's game over. No. You know, Forest were way on top in the first half of West Ham. Way on top. You know, when it's just the lacking of a little bit of quality in the final pass, in the final third. But that'll come. They've signed another 3 players who could come in and make a huge difference. They've got Dennis from Watford, who scored 10 Premier League goals for Watford in a poor Watford side last season. I like the business what Forest are doing. I really do. So I just thought his comments was just like, does he think this is as good as it's going to get, this one game? It's like, no, you don't know the club. You don't know the history. You know,
very odd. I found it very odd. And I suppose the other thing that you've got to take into account as well, I mean, you'll be able to sing to this tune more than anyone else, the emotional, you know, the emotional factor. So these players, the build up, they're back in the Premier League, the stadium was hopping. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, there must be at some point an emotional, an adrenaline dump. So you have this, you know, unbelievable first half. What's that like as a player, Tank? Because you know it's a big occasion. There must become times in the game where there's a bit of a lull and you have to kind of ride that out a little bit.
But that's exactly, and that's why I think that the players and the manager need a lot of credit to, you know, to what this idiot's been saying. Like, you know, Forest was superb the first half. And as you say, the adrenaline's pumping, the crowd are unbelievable. As players, and Steve Cooper, the manager, would have known that there is going to be a dip. West Ham are going to come into this. West Ham are a quality Premier League side, by the way. You're not talking about like a Bournemouth or a Fulham who's just come up with you. This is an established, you know,
competing in Europe.
You know, this is a top side, West Ham in the Premier League. So what did Richard Keys think? That they were just going to come over and Forest were just going to swamp all over them and win 3-4-5-0? No, football doesn't work like that. I thought Forest showed the quality in the first half to say, I think that the Forest are going to be okay in this league. And then they showed the battling qualities in the second half. Yeah, they wrote a bit of luck and, they missed the penalty, but is that not what they've signed the keeper for from Man United, who's a quality keeper, to come in and make these big saves at big moments to get you points? That's the reason they signed him.
So, well, we had a couple of questions actually that come in around some of those points. So, and the first one, I suppose, is around something that you touched on, is the volume of signings. So, Born Red asked, are you worried that Forest have made too many signings and there's too much change? And how long will it take for those to bed in? Because it is pretty much like they're playing Championship Manager and they've just splashed as much cash as possible. It's a lot of players to bed in.
It is. But on the flip side, it was needed. I think Forest lost 11 players last season, either via loan, recalls, and contracts not renewed. So there was always going to be a big turnaround. What people need to realise is Forest have not been in the Premier League for 23 years. So, they've had some really difficult times. Like the year we won the league, we get in the Premier League, the chairman decided to flog all of our better players and kind of left us way short. And we never signed anyone really. We were shopping in the lower tier where we shouldn't have been. So it's been really difficult. So as a Forest fan now, you've got an owner who's come in and just said, right, we're back in the Premier League. here's the checkbook. You go and build a squad what you think will keep us in the Premier League. The 15, 16 signings, and I don't think it's finished. I don't think it's finished yet. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 more. It could be as many as 19 signings. It's a hell of a lot of signings. It's a hell of a lot of turnaround. But I go to the manager, Steve Cooper, and what he done and what I know he's done from people who we speak to at the club. And he generated this atmosphere when he come in. It's like a happy place, a place what's buzzing, where you want to come into work. Prior to that, the place, it was glum. And he's created this atmosphere, and he does the Klopp thing at the end of the game. I don't know whether you've seen that yesterday. Yeah, he's got everything, the whole city and the whole club. It's all vibrant. So, yeah, it's a lot of signings. They need time to bed in, but I think they've got the perfect manager to suit that club, and he will gel these signings in. That was a big win. I think it's Bournemouth next. I think so. If you get a little bit of momentum and you go and get a result of Bournemouth, you can build, and the atmosphere of creating the players will come in, they gel. It will take time, but it's a lot of signings, Jamie, but it was needed. It was needed.
So we're gonna move on from Forest, and we're gonna go to the Battle of the Bridge next. Yeah. And I think we're very much in tune on this. How good was that bit of needle yesterday? It feels like it's been missing for a while. It felt like a proper game, that.
Oh, do you know what it was? It was like a throwback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, because for me this season, the best thing what's happened is the referees are allowing the game to flow a little bit. These free kicks, what are like, is it, isn't it? They can't. It's just like, it isn't.
Get on with it. Yeah.
And the big thing what I've noticed as well, and I can't remember which. I don't know whether it was Carragher touched on it yesterday. The rolling around and the theatrics are kind of stopped because they're not getting the free kicks, and the refs like, get up. Yeah. And it's like yesterday I was sat there and I was like, this is football now.
We've got football back.
Yeah, this is football. We're kind of back to where it was, and then you've got the managers at it. I mean, some game, mate.
See, it's funny because you could feel it bubbling up, and I have to say I love Conte. He's just he's like a Bond villain. I don't know because I was watching it with my son yesterday, and I was like, you wouldn't fancy it with Antonio Conte. He'd be the type he'd bite your kneecaps off or something mad. He's as I said, he's a bit of a Bond villain. But you're looking at that, and look, I think football has become diluted for far too long. And this isn't me saying that I want to see fights every week. Not at all. I'm just saying I want to see passion. I like anybody that knows me. I just love people that are passionate about things. If you care about something, then show it. And I want to see managers with passion. I don't like players that come out and do these interviews where it's stock answers and, they're media trained within an inch of their life. It's why you look at the likes of, I don't know, a Declan Rice or Connor Cody. When they talk, they're very articulate, normal people. You can relate to them. And I think that's what fans, we want to see. And you definitely got to see that side that Conte's a winner. He does not want to give an inch in anything. And Tuchel is exactly the same. That, for me, is two elite managers who deeply care about their clubs and are passionate about winning that match. It's refreshing.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's like win at all cost. And that was one of the best games I've seen for a long time of football. When we've seen some good games. But as you say there, you've got two managers who you kind of felt I was praying there was going to be another equaliser, because once Chelsea scored and then Tottenham, you were like, they were at each other and you were like, oh, okay. I wonder what will happen if another one goes in. You kind of thinking, when he went down the thing, did you see Conte's Instagram post?
Yeah, it made it even better. I mean, that was actually the best thing about it. Yeah.
I should have tripped him. I didn't see him. I wish I'd have tripped, and like laughing emojis. It's like, that's, imagine the Spurs fans, that they'd be like, fucking brilliant. How good's this as our manager? And he's doing a little. We've just spoke about Steve Cooper and what he's doing at Forest, but I think Spurs are going to be a little. They're going to be a problem for this league, because you just felt yesterday. I thought there was always a goal coming. I just thought these are going to nick one, and then you've got. I know going off case here, but I put in this. That was the best goal drag I've ever seen in my life. It's like, what the fuck?
I was going to say,
got everything.
How have VAR looked at that? So I actually heard something this morning that supposedly pulling hair is not against the rules. Now I'll have to double check that, but it was actually Simon Jordan that said it this morning. That supposedly letter of the law that is not violent conduct. Which I don't know about you. Maybe it's because there's not that much long hair knocking around. I find that absolutely mad, because how can you look at that and basically just go, play on, lads, and from the resulting corner you get like you just couldn't write the drama.
I think that's why the game yesterday is so talked about, because it did have everything. It had a mad skull drag, and then they've actually scored from that corner.
Scored from the corner.
Did you see that Romario to James when it went in as well? Right in his face, screaming at me. He's horrible in.
In the best possible way. You could see it actually nearly. So it started with him, and I think it was Havertz.
Yeah.
And the two, I think Carragher actually called it out in commentary. He said he'll get him back because Havertz had a bit of a tantrum. Yeah. And he was like, Romero will get him back. And next time he got the ball, got him back. And it just built from then. And I'm similar to you. I think with Spurs, from a footballing sense, I actually thought they were a little bit disappointing. I felt Spurs would go there and get the results, but I don't think they were firing on all cylinders. But you always feel with that front three, or those, that front three, that they're going to get opportunities. And whilst I don't think they were at their best, they'll probably take more from the fact that they weren't at their best and they were able to grind out a result. Because we've always said that Spurs have got a bit of a soft underbelly, but it seems like that's not the case now with Conte there. Well,
that's the thing, mate. I mean, that Spurs have been renowned for being a soft touch, and that for me yesterday's kind of put that to bed a little bit. A 95th minute equaliser, they'll probably get, it sounds daft to say, but they'll probably get more out of that than a win. If they went there and won 2-0 and, played great, it's like, yeah, we played great, but they've gone there, not really played well against a top side like Chelsea and grind it out and cause chaos, had a fight. It's like Spurs changing room would be buzzing.
Now, there's two things that I want to touch on before we move on to United, and I'm trying to think of the best way for us to do this, right? So we'll go Graham Souness first, and there was comments made post-match from Graham Souness where he's probably been saying some of the similar things to us, in that we nearly feel like we've got football back a little bit. The contact was back, and he's come out with comments where he's basically called it a man's game. We've got our game back. And as I said, look, he's talking about the contact, he's talking about the physicality, but online there has been a lot of reaction to the fact that he has referenced that match has been a man's game. I have my own opinions, which I'll give it a minute, but I want to get your initial reaction to the reaction about him calling it a man's game, because let's just say it's been negative in some quarters online.
Yeah, I thought it was a man's game. So that's, there was men playing football yesterday. So is that not a man's game? In the summer in the women's Europe, were they not women? Everyone was saying the women are doing unbelievable stuff for women's football. Now, I've seen Beth England, who plays for England, I've seen her tweet saying, rubbish, got a man's game. Well, I don't mean to be funny, Beth, but it was a man's game. As equally, when you played in the summer, that was a women's game. You didn't have players coming out, like, say, for instance, and I'll just pick a player out of the year, like Declan Rice, say. You didn't have Declan Rice saying, that's scandalous, that. Why are you saying it's women's football? Because it fucking is women's football. And that was men's football yesterday. So I just feel at the minute, what the women's football has done in the summer was outstanding for women's football, and they all deserve all the accolades and the credit they get. It's been unbelievable for the women's game. But don't try and steal and jump on everybody's bandwagon just to try and create stuff just for your own agenda. What Graham Souness said and done, it was absolutely bang on. It was men's football going at it, men kicking shite out of each other, men squaring up and fighting at each other. So that's it. That's his comments. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with it? Come on, the world's that bad now, mate, that I'm going to stop the train and get off. It's like, come on. I mean, I don't know your thoughts, but I think that she's embarrassed herself with that tweet. I think that she needs to have a long, hard look and just think, if she sits down logically, it was a man's game of football.
I think, do you know what? I thought long and hard about this, and I think when these type of accusations are thrown about, and first things first, I don't think there is anything remotely wrong with what Graham Souness said. He was commenting, like you said, on a man's game, and he's talking about the physicality, the physical side of the game, which we've just spoke about has been more prevalent in this season than it was last season, because they are trying to let the game flow more. So it was a throwback to when he would have played, when it was more physical, when you played, when it was more physical. So what he means there, when you talk about a man's game, he's just talking about fellas standing up and being more physical, more aggressive, and that was plain to see in the game yesterday. When he calls it a man's game between two teams of men, that is not to the detriment of women. I think that the problem I have with this type of stuff, and like you said, so proud of everything that happened in the women's Euros. Fantastic for the game, and I hope it creates pathways for girls to have equal opportunities in football moving forward. That's what we all want, and that's what women deserve 100%. I personally think when these type of accusations and people clamber to take offense for silly little things like this, I actually think it does their case more harm than good. And to not go off on a bit of a tangent, you can have it in my opinion with the same things like racism. I've spoke to you about it personally. My son is mixed race, and I don't even think I'm allowed to say mixed race now, of mixed heritage, and he's faced things like that in his life, and trying to have those conversations where, look, this is something that's racist, this isn't something that's racist. If we start making claims and get offended about stuff that isn't actually racist or isn't actually derogatory to women or sexist, I think it actually does the case more harm than good. So I just think we're on very dodgy ground here, because you don't want it to become women pitting themselves against men. I think it should be one big family supporting and building each other up, not looking to take sly, cheap shots over something that really isn't an issue.
Do you know the problem with it at the minute, Jay? And as you say, now it's going to do more harm to the women's football if they keep jumping on this bandwagon, because the men's game is the men's game, the women's game is the women's game. You know, I would love not more to see the women's game build up, and you know, every young girl should be allowed to play football whenever, wherever they want. Exactly the same as every young boy. You know, there should be no difference in that. But everybody in this world, and it just seems to be a lot of the women footballers who were superbly successful, they're just looking to be offended. They're desperate to look for some sort. You know, everyone just is offended by the smallest little thing. My wife said this on Twitter this morning. You're terrified to say anything. You're terrified to say, like, you know, what to say. I keep harping on about the UFC. You know what? So what happens with that then? If we're not allowed to say the men's game, and when the UFC women are fighting, we're not allowed to say the UFC women. What do you say? What's the right thing now? Just these humans.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I was talking about my own son there, I was like, geez, I can't say mixed race. So I felt that I have to correct it and try and say it. We're just on dodgy ground, and just smart. Because, you know, and you've got to look at generational. There's so many things that are wrapped up in this. There's obviously generational things. People can say things without meaning to cause offense or harm, but it just feels like as a society, everyone is so uptight about things. Yeah. The first thing is to leap towards offense rather than understanding, and everybody knows. With the context that Graham Souness used those terms yesterday, it was absolutely perfect and fitting within the context of a man's game between two teams of men. Enough of the nonsense, surely.
Mate, the world's going crazy. But as you say, it's like we're talking about this girl's tweet more than what the actual game was. The game was unbelievable. Yeah, it was a man. The game was unreal. You had, you know, tackles flying in. You know, players having a go at each other, managers and everything. So all as Graham Souness said, it was a proper men going to war in a game of football. What is wrong with that? It's like the too easily offended. And this Beth England, honestly, you know, they've done great. I think personally, she looks stupid now. Because it's just kind of like, I really want to be offended, and brilliant, he's offended me. Now I'm going to tell the world that he's offended me. And I've seen some of the comments. I went through it because I actually wrote back and just said it was a men's game of football. You know, it was two men playing football. What did you want them to say? It was like people who identified as carrots this week were playing football.
Oh, Jesus. You know, you're doing well. Let's not. You're doing good. You're doing good. Let's leave it there because we're on a dodgy path. Yeah. There's actually a question that I want to finish on before we move to United. And I feel bad because Murph.
Yes, United. Murph.
We're definitely going to United next. But quickly, before he actually sent us a question in, Murph, and he wanted to know, and it's off the back of obviously the managers clashing. in your opinion, what has been the greatest bust-up or feud between managers?
Oh, do you know what, mate? I think you'll do well to go as good as that one yesterday. You know, it's kind of like, I know it's fresh in the memory, but I know that you had Wenger and Fergie had a bit, and then Wenger had a little head-to-head with Mourinho when he was at Chelsea. But as that yesterday, I'm not too sure that'll get topped. I think that's for me, that's the standout. I'd love to see that in celebrity boxing match, to be fair. I know my money would be on as well.
Yeah, I'm going Conte all day. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny because I was thinking when the question came in, I was thinking back, and like you can think of with the Fergie and Wenger thing, it wasn't that they naturally squared up. You just knew there was deep-rooted dislike over the years. But it's more based on, I think, being good competitors. I think they've gone on to be friends afterwards. And I think Mourinho and Wenger was different. I don't think they would be on each other's Christmas card lists.
I think there was hatred there.
Yeah, genuine hatred, clash of styles. I think the other ones I can think of as well, again, maybe it's a bit of recency bias. Arteta lost his head at Anfield. And it's so funny, you're looking at that All or Nothing documentary, and he's doing the big speakers around the pitch to try and tell his players to stay calm, and his head absolutely falls off.
He ended up being our biggest cheerleader.
So yeah, that was one. But yeah, I think you'll be hard pushed to see two managers lose it to that level. Have you ever known anything in your dressing rooms where, whether it's manager to manager or manager to player, has there ever been people? Must have been people coming to blows back in the day.
Yeah, you've had bust-ups and everything in the changing rooms, not major in that, but I think the one at Leicester City was Trevor Benjamin and Collymore, wasn't it?
What happened there?
Benji just basically bingoed Collymore.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah. What was that over? Benji. To be honest with you, I'd signed the week after, I think, but Collymore was he wasn't fit or something, so they played in the reserve game, and Benji was a big boy, and anyway, they squared up and he just went pop, and yeah.
Really?
So don't
mess. The problem was solved.
Game over, mate. Full time.
Love it. Right, so we're going to come on to your favourite topic, which is Manchester United. I have to say, I was in total shock watching that game, and we're obviously going to dissect a few parts of this. They were so poor in so many ways, but I feel like so many of the ways that they were poor could have been avoided, if that makes sense. So we'll go into each of them in isolation in a second. But what, from your side, what was your initial reaction, when watching the game, but I suppose then some of the fallout afterwards? What have you made of it all?
My initial thoughts when I seen the team sheets was, I think he's fucked up here. You know what you get with Brentford. You know what you get. The stadium is basically on you. It's on top of you. It's only a small ground, but they're really close and they're on top of you and they're very vocal. And the manager, I love the manager, by the way. He's kind of like gets them going and he's a bit of a cheerleader for them. I think he's very, very good. He knows exactly what he's got and he knows how to utilise it and he knows how to get the best out of them. Brentford are a big side. They're a big, physical, powerful team. So when I seen United side and I looked through and I was like, you've got 2 6-foot players in your whole side. You've got Harry Maguire and you've got Ronaldo. And then I'm looking at the Brentford side and they've got 7 or 8. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
But on a serious note, though, I'm kind of like a side that's going to do long throws, free kicks, corners, set plays, put the ball under your crossbar. You've got to see that and adapt to that. So then it brought me to thinking then, I'm not too sure this manager's cut out for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is early, Jamie. I know this is, and I might get a bit of abuse for this, but I just think that if you've got an ounce about you coming new into the Premier League and you're meant to be this big wonder super coach, you've got to know the basics of who you're playing. You have to know what type of side Brentford is. Man United fans slaughter McTominay, whatever, but he's a big, strapping, powerful unit.
Who did they slaughter there? What was his name?
McTominay, is it?
Oh yeah, no, he's okay.
Did they get it right?
Check it. Yeah, no, it was dubious, but go on.
You have to play him in that game. You have to. Varane, hasn't at the best of times. You play him, you know, you've got your centre halves, Lindelof. Surely to God, you say, right, these have got 5 or 6 foot plus at least, possibly 7 or 8, at least 6 foot players. You've got to try and match them physically first, and just say, like, you know, if our back's against the wall, we'll match them, we'll stand up against them, we'll edit, we'll kick it, we'll clear it, then we'll have the quality to pass it round, and then we can play our football. But you've got to do the basics first, mate. I mean, I'm going to go on record now and I'm saying I think this manager is not what everybody thinks he is.
It's funny you say that because, and yeah, it is early to start writing people off, but I'd be similar to yourself in that looking at that game, there was 2 things. Firstly, I agree with you completely. The size, you've got McTominay, whilst he's not a favourite, put him in the side. If you've got Varane there, serial winner, tall, physical, can help with the aerial bombardment that was about to ensue. And everybody knew that was what was going to happen. So that is a worry that's not been picked up on. And then the second piece, and we've spoke about this at length, is, and you could actually go back and quote a podcast where we spoke about, if you play Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes in a midfield 3, you are asking for trouble. And I think I tweeted it out in advance of the game. I was like, they're not going to offer enough protection. I'm a novice. I don't know 5% of, if that, of what these elite coaches do. And I'm looking at that. If you were playing against that midfield 3 there, you'd be licking your lips going, we can steamroll these. So these are 2. This isn't needing all your badges to know that these are 2 big glaring areas that could cause United problems. And look, I must caveat all of this by saying it's like that. What is it? The saying about everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face. And David De Gea has basically threw a ball into his net at the worst possible time, give the crowd a boost, and then United are up against it. So there is the context of that. But still, going into that game, I don't think the manager has done himself any favours by selecting that side. And it just means that the vultures are just like, oh, hello, we might have a little something here. And once you see that chink in the armoury, that's all people need to pile on.
I've spoke about Bruno Fernandes ever since he become a Manchester United player. And I've said, even when he was scoring all of these goals, I've said it from day one, he does not get in any top 6 side in a majority of the leagues in Europe. I'd go as far as to say. The lad's a cheat. And he was allowed to cheat under the previous management. But now he's asked to play a role. He can't do it. He can't do it. I thought he was absolutely woeful. And he has been for a long time for United. And we've said to Jamie, we actually said on the podcast, how can you, if you're Man City or Liverpool or a Chelsea or a Tottenham, who midfielders are not only quality on the ball, but they can do the hard yards. You see Bernardo Silva. There was West Ham. They were 2-0 up at West Ham in like the 89th minute. The game's cruising and he's sprinting back into his left back area, doing slide tackles to regain possession. You will never see Eriksen or Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes do that. Never in a million years. So not only are these top side midfielders, they're unbelievable on the ball, but they're so athletic and physical. And Man United, I mean, I'd actually wouldn't mind playing in midfield against Fernandes and Eriksen, because I know they're not really going to go that way. And if they do go that way, they certainly won't be coming back that way with me.
Yeah, and so opportunity will open up if they do.
Yeah, and you kind of like, I honestly, Matt, I think the managers got away with it like this result on the weekend or two, because I think a lot, as you've just said, then a lot of this could have been sorted by playing the right physical side. Man United have got some big boys in their squad, but to play that side, I mean, come on.
And the other thing you look at it as well is, look, whilst, and we're going to come on to it next in terms of the other problems, the recruitment, the board level, the owners, all that stuff. But by all accounts, Martinez has been Ten Hag's signing. He's played a game there. He's dropped the bollock against Brighton, and look, we're saying this. It's going to take time to adjust. You see this with all top players. But he's dropped a couple of bollocks against Brighton. You're looking at this game. He's been hooked at half time. This is the manager's player. What is this saying in that he's had full power to go and get this player, and 2 games into his Manchester United career, he's pulling him off at half time? Again, it's not a good look.
It's not. And I think this goes back to the recruitment side, and we've spoken.
The memes are great, by the way, aren't they, mate? The little fellas running around.
Oh, they are, mate. I mean, it gives everyone a voice, social media, but some of these about him are brilliant. Have you seen the wrestling one where he just slaps the little thing? But going back to, I mean, we had a private conversation about this when I actually put in our WhatsApp group, I said, without being disrespectful to him, I'd actually never heard of him. He wasn't one of them where you were thinking, oh, he's been linked. You hear young centre-halves or becoming centre-halves playing in Italy, France, wherever, and you're like, yeah, he must be decent to him. I'd actually not heard of him. There was no one linked to him, or
he wasn't on any wish lists.
Yeah, he's not on anyone's big radar. And this is where I think the way how Ten Hag's getting away with it is he's not got the signings what he's being promised or he thought he would have. So he's gone back to what he knows and who he knows.
His comfort blanket.
And I think this is going to bite him on the arse in a huge way, because the Dutch league is not the greatest league in the world, and I think he's now getting found out. I mean, £55 million for this lad at the minute is looking as bad as the 80 million for Maguire.
Yeah, and another decision off the back of, I suppose, these kind of looks like square pegs, round holes. The big one for me, and it was a question that came in from Sean Patton around David De Gea and should they have kept Henderson. You're looking at this now, the way that De Gea is playing. They're trying to get him to play out from the back. He's never been that type of goalkeeper. Sean's question was, should they have potentially kept Henderson? I'm looking at that yesterday, and yes, David De Gea has flapped. He's on huge wages. They're trying to get a goalkeeper that's not particularly comfortable with his feet to play out. I mean, that yesterday when he played it into Christian Eriksen, I mean, we do this with our 10-year-olds. You want them to play out and be comfortable and confident. And if you're not given the right type of options to receive the ball, then it's more, always say it's more on the person, for the team, for not giving him the option. I'll be honest, Christian Eriksen wasn't an option there. No. He hadn't pulled into space to receive the ball. You could see that Brentford had their trigger. Everything was set perfectly. And they're thinking, play it in, please play it. They were just like a coiled spring ready to go. David De Gea's got to have a bit more cop on there to go, this isn't one of those instances. And I nearly think that the centre-backs had pulled wide and there was a little clip onto a centre-back. There was different options there. The goalkeeper's got to be making better decisions than that there.
Look, if a manager wants to play a certain way, that's fine. But as an ex-player, if that's not on, I'll make my own decision. Yeah. I'll take a bollocking off the manager and I'll just say, fuck you, wasn't on. But I'll make that decision when the ball's 70 yards away from my goal. This is a Spanish international goalkeeper who's played God knows how many games in his career. I mean, let's be honest. If he hasn't got the character to knock this ball long and just think, fuck you, it's not on. And if the manager has a go at him at half time, just go, no, I'll sit down with you on Monday and I'll show you the video, what I seen. And if I'm wrong, I'll say, yeah, I've got that. I fucked up. I should have played it into them. But just because your manager says this is how we play, you've got to take the responsibility.
There's got to be some in-game management as well.
There's got to be, these are top elite players. I wouldn't knock a ball into my centre midfield play with a man right up his arse and two men round him, unless it was Scott Gemmell who'd just do it anyway and get out of it. But my point is there's got to be some sort of character in these plays to say, it's not on, I'm not doing it. If the manager's unhappy with it, I'll deal with it at half-time or on Monday morning when we do the analysis.
Yeah. It's funny because the one thing that's come out the back of this game is that, and I've said this before, it's something that irks me, is Gary Neville on his soapbox, and it's getting worse. I mean, he's obviously come out now, and he's Carragher called it when he was trying to wind him up pre-game, as he'll soon be out, slagging off the Glazers. Look, I might be wrong here, and I'm happy for fans of United to comment on the social pages and inform me, and we'll have discussions. I'm happy to be corrected here, but it just seems to me when Gary Neville's coming out and he's blaming the Glazers, whilst they are not ideal owners, but we'll go through a list in a minute of owners and you tell me who are ideal owners, because all of them have got the faults. But he's blaming the Glazers. They have put $1 billion. Now, we'll get into a conversation of where's that money come from in a minute again, but on the squad and the players, they have spent, give or take, $1 billion there or thereabouts. they have recruited poorly. That is a different conversation. But the club has been given money. Yes, they're not taking money out of their own pockets and putting it into the club, but they have still been given money to recruit players. They've just recruited criminally. I think more of the conversation should be personally around the players. Are you telling me that Manchester United side wasn't good enough to beat Brentford there? It was. You've got, for some reason, Harry Maguire seems like an easy target. A lot of the time we've said this. There's people like Bruno Fernandes there who's walking around, throwing his arms around. He doesn't want to know when the going gets tough. If he was in the trenches, he would walk the other way. He's not that type of player. You've said it. I've said it. We can see it. He just doesn't seem to have that type of attitude and application within him. If you build a team around him and let him cheat, he'll score you loads of goals. But that's not what Manchester United need at the moment. Then you've got a figurehead, Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone outside of Manchester could see that was going to go tits up at some point. You know, it's not what that club needs at the moment. So when Gary Neville sat there and he's moaning about the owners, it just seems like that's an easy get out. And I feel like the players are getting away scot-free here because they're not applying themselves. And I'm on a bit of a rant here, right? And I'm going to try and pull something up on my phone. I think we were talking about, I'm not a big fan of total distance covered as a metric because there could be there's loads of context to that. But when we're looking at, I suppose, the pressing and the desire of the Manchester United players, they are criminally behind Brentford in terms of their ability to press, their ability to try and win that ball back. I think I shared it in the WhatsApp group yesterday. I'm just trying to pull it up. It could be a case that could be thrown here that Man United players just don't seem to want this enough.
Well, that's a fact, isn't it? I mean, the one thing, but even me as a player, when you were having a tough time and your confidence was low, you certainly, you wouldn't work harder, but your work rate certainly wouldn't dip. You know, you'd sprint them extra 5 yards and you'd try and build your confidence and you'd hope that something would click for you. But Man United run 15 kilometres less than Brentford. And that for me is absolutely criminal and it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, mate. I've got the stats. I was trying to pull it there, right? So on that, we've got total distance that you just said. So looking at Brentford versus United, match stats, total pressures from Brentford 71 to Manchester United's 46. The telling one for me is pressures in the final third. Brentford 21, Manchester United 7. Then pressures leading to a final third turnover, so winning the ball in the final third. Brentford 8, Manchester United 4. That for me is more telling than total distance because that's desire to go win that ball back.
It is, and this is the issue. Like the players are getting away with it, far too easy. And this is what I said to you about the manager. No one's mentioned. There wasn't a single article in any papers. I seen one where they were saying Ten Hag feels like he's being thrown under the bus. Well, I think Ten Hag threw himself under the bus on the weekend with the side he selected. And just going back on Gary Neville. All you get from Gary Neville is the owners. They haven't threw any of their own money in. Well, because you can't do that no more. I'd like to know how much money Gary Neville's from his own personal pocket has put in at Salford. I bet it's not a fucking bean. I bet he's not put a penny of his own money in Salford. Tony Lim, who is the actual owner, probably has. Gary Neville's not put a penny in at Salford. Gary Neville has not actually transferred any money from his bank into Salford's bank account to go and sign players. Why should the Glazers? You've got the biggest football global phenomenal in the world. And I've seen a quote, and I think I mentioned this last week in the podcast with Simon Jordan. They're in £500 million worth of debt on a company what's worth $5 billion. It's like 10% of the actual company what it's in debt. And he's like, he's a much bigger businessman than what I'll ever be. And he's like, that's brilliant. If your business is only 10% in debt, you're flying. So what's the issue with the Glazers taking money out? Every manager that the Glazers have employed, they've had the best players who they could possibly bring in, and they give them the biggest wages. Man United's method is to go and get the best players in the world, and if somebody else wants them, we'll just give them 400 grand a week.
See, we had a question that come in from Hawke's Bay on this particular point, and he was asking about ownership models and what makes good owners. And you said that it seems like the gripe at the moment with United fans is, well, the owners aren't putting in their own money. Well, if you look at it, Liverpool's owners don't. Liverpool's model has always been, We put in what we raise through transfers.
Yeah.
Now, that, Liverpool fans stamp their feet a lot about that, but it's a sustainable model that has brought success. And whilst it's brought some frustration in that we're not playing Football Manager and just buying anyone that we want, Liverpool work within a model, and the owners have always been clear about that. Spurs ownership definitely don't. Daniel Levy is tighter than what could I say there? What would you say? Tighter. I got some abuse last week because I said flat as a witch's tit, which was which was a random saying, but he's tight anyway. We'll say. Arsenal's owners don't. Chelsea's new owner is this window, but he's already said that he wants to move to a self-sustainable model, which is what this whole point is a lot of these businesses want to get to a self-sustainable model. I would argue that it's only City's owners who do it and will continue to do it because they have a money printing machine in the back office, and money is no object to them. So I don't know what they want. I genuinely don't know what they want. My issue for United would be more about putting football people in football positions, build a proper recruitment team, put in a director of football. Don't have businessmen running a football club. Have football people making football decisions and giving that information to the business people. That just seems common sense to me.
Well, it is. I mean, it does drive me insane a little bit because I actually feel a little bit sorry for the Glazers because they're trying to get Man United back to where they was 10 years ago or whatever. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to fund everything through the transfers and get the best players and they have took the eye off the ball with the stadium. The stadium does need a bit of TLC. The training ground, which 10 years ago was the best that I've ever seen in my life, but they haven't really updated that. But what do the Man United fans want them to do? Because if they start repairing Old Trafford and repairing the training ground, but then the transfers won't be getting as much, and then the team will be even worse than what it is. As you've just said, then they need football people in football operation jobs where they make football decisions, and then they go to the powers that be and say, "We want X, Y, Z to sign for us. These are the reason we want them to sign for us, and we just need you to sort the funds out." But Man United, and we've said this a long time, it's kind of a scattergun approach. They try and get the most expensive player each transfer window, and that's all that counts to them. And it's not working. They're in trouble.
Two things I want to finish on, right? First one is, so one's a listener question, and one I just want to get your steer on. Something in the news that's made a bit of column inches was Steven Gerrard's decision to remove Tyrone Mings as Villa captain. He was dropped for the first game of the season, then he was restored to the lineup, and to be fair, I thought he played well, made a fantastic last-ditch tackle towards the end of the game. Good result for Villa. I have to say, in that game, I actually thought Everton looked a little bit more stable. I think they look a lot more solid. They just need they need a striker. So painfully obvious. But I thought you could get a good gauge on where both sides are at. What have you made of that? Because it's a ballsy decision for Steven Gerrard to make. He's obviously come out and said, "Look, Tyrone was not my captain. I want to put my own stamp on things." He's not shied away from it. What have you made of that, and what type of impact do you think that could have on a dressing room?
I think it's the right decision. I'm not a big fan of Tyrone Mings. I don't think he's a top flight defender. Full stop. He will make mistakes. He will give you chances in every single game. Gerrard he needs to come in, but he's come in and he's signed players and he needs to put his own stamp in it. And if somebody is not going to be not so much in your plans, but is not going to be playing week in, week out, he can't be your captain. McGlynn, for me, he's a great choice.
McGlynn, yeah.
What's his name again? McGinn. There you go.
That was the easiest name that you've ever got wrong.
Him, anyway. He smells of captains, and he works his bollocks off. Everything's for the team. He's got like a good work ethic. He's got the nice bit of quality about him. He's a good footballer, and he's going to play week in, week out. I thought, it's a big decision, but managers live and die by the big decisions. The problem what Gerrard's got is one of the centre half last week. It struggled so he's dropped in, and as Big Sands looks like he's got a bit of a bad injury now. The centre half running, so he's actually going to have to go to Tyrone Mings, and the effect it can have in the changing room, and it's meant to have happened. I've heard whispers about it. Is that Tyrone Mings a little bit doing a few little naughty things and snide little things, but we don't know.
Chinese whispers.
Chinese whispers, mate. Yeah. So that's the other thing. What you got to be careful of making a big decision like that is that you don't get a little splinter pack. You know, someone who's not else, and they get a little group who's both not playing. 2 or 3 of them aren't playing, and they cause a little bit of unrest. And it can happen. It can happen like that, and it can turn a changing room very quickly.
Yeah, but it's funny now. You hear managers say it a lot. I mean, it must be so hard to police. Well, I know managers try not to police dressing rooms. It's more about the big characters that you put in your team. They police the dressing room. But you know, in this day and age now, it's only one wrong comment and you could lose 50% of a dressing room. It must be a tough place, right? So I want to finish off on a question that I was meant to ask last week from a listener, Fred Flunk, and he wants to know, what is your opinion on adults wearing football kits, and what is your thoughts on buying knockoff kits and gear?
Yeah,
when's the last footy top you bought?
The new Liverpool one for Frankie. But for me personally, I've never. The last football kit I bought was the last game I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a football kit wearing. I never will be. I don't know.
What's your opinion on adults wearing them? Do you think it becomes an age where you're like, come on, lads?
Do you know what? It's never really like kind of bothered me. I mean, I think if fellas go on a game that and they've got the Liverpool top on, just they go in the game. It's just like, I've not really got an opinion right or wrong in it. It's just if you want to wear a football kit to go and watch your team play, crack on, get on with it. It doesn't really bother me at all.
Yeah, I only really get a little bit bothered when you see, these kits are designed for kids, right? And they're all, they're a bit mad, some of them now. Usually the home kits are pretty safe, but then they might try something a bit more risque with the away kit or the third kit. And you see grown-ups, big beer bellies on them, 50 years old, slagging off the kits on, and I'm like, hold on, mate. These are not designed for you to walk around in sprayed on. You know what I mean? So that's more my complaints. I actually, for the first time, I'm not really a big kit buyer for myself. Obviously, I get them for my lad. But I bought the new Liverpool one this season. I thought they'd done a nice job on it. I would wear it to go to the game. I'm more of a training kit person. So I've got a lot of the Liverpool training gear that I'd wear a lot. And I pretty much spend 99% of my life in shorts and flip-flops. So anything training kit related. Thoughts on the knockoff, these DH gates and the likes of that? Would you be getting some of those for the kids? Because obviously, if you're getting 3 kits for a kid a season, it's getting expensive these days.
It is, to be fair. And the thing is, the kids nowadays, they expect it as well. And everyone's circumstance is different, mate. So, I'm just of the opinion, look, if it makes your kids happy, you do what you have to do. If you have to get them 3 knockoff kits, you crack on and get them as long as the kids are happy wearing them. That's all that'll count for me, mate. But yeah.
Well said.
What I will say, mate, is the Liverpool's, when I first seen it, I was like, oh my, that's a bad kit. Like the
white one. Looks good on the players, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, listen, I tried to get it yesterday for Frankie. I was like, this kit is unbelievable. That might be the kit I buy.
Oh, we are. I love it.
And I hated it when I seen it. I was like, that's shocking. But the more I see kids buy ours, and you're like, that kit's unbelievable.
It's actually all right, yeah. So, and plus now you're big on your Peloton, aren't you? So give it a couple of weeks, mate. You have your 6-pack out in that new white jersey. You'll be looking the business.
Long sleeve medium, here we go.
Tag, that's enough from us. What are we now? An hour. Enjoyed that. Hopefully we didn't offend too many people with some of the comments. As always, we just try and be as honest as we can. We say in the social page that it's an unfiltered podcast, so we're just trying to be as honest and hopefully nobody took offense. You got anything coming up for the week, mate? What's going on?
No, quiet, mate. Next week, Frankie's 4 at the end of the month, so we're flying off to Disneyland Paris next week for 4 nights with him. So
lovely.
Looking forward to that, mate, because we haven't been able to get away for the summer because Jack has started with Burnley, so I just kind of he's moved home and all that, so it's only down the road, but I just thought if we're away and he gets a little bit, which he hasn't done, to be fair to the kid, but I'd rather be close to home if he just says, Dad, look, I'm feeling a bit homesick, and I can just shoot down and take him a bite to eat or go and knock some balls at the driving range. So we're just going Disneyland with Frankie next week.
Lovely. And how's Jack getting on? Is he going all right?
He's doing well, mate. He had a little. He picked up a bit of a strange injury, so he trained for the first time on Friday last week. Didn't think he was going to be involved in a game on Saturday, but he come on for 30 minutes and done well. So he's back full training now this week. So He's got Reading away on Saturday, and he's trying to get me to go down to watch.
You'll be going. You know as well as I go. You try to play it cool. We'd both be there. No,
I'll be going.
No hesitation. Right. Thank you everybody for listening. I have to say, like the social pages have been absolutely buzzing over the last few weeks. It's been really good to see that people are enjoying it. The feedback's been fantastic. As always, please do keep that coming. If you don't mind, and I'll say it at the end of every show, but if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're nearly at 1,000 subscribers now. So if you could subscribe, leave us any feedback, tell a mate. As always, let us know what you think of each of the shows. We really do enjoy hearing all your feedback after each show. But more importantly, with that, enjoy the rest of your week. Look after yourselves, and we'll be back with you again next week on the Boot Room Podcast. All the best.
Cheers, pal.
All the best.